Above average black men shining like the sun. With Chris Sr., Chris Jr., Devin on the beat, we're telling stories from the heart. Feel the pulse and the heat. Yo! Step into the room, we bringing that vibe, highlighting kings and queens who thrive and survive. From the corner of the block, making dreams come true. We elevate the voices, yes, you know how we do. Chris Sia got the wisdom, laying down the facts. Chris Jr. with the passion, pushing us to relax.
Sounds good, don't it?
Fire, always keeping it fresh. Together we're a force, rising up from the rest.
Okay.
Journey through laughter and tears, celebrating achievements, confronting our fears. We interview the dreamers, the doers, the straight hustlers.
Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Brendan Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire, and uplift. And I will be stealing my brother's lines today. As always, make sure that you are liking, follow, subscribing, sharing, commenting, interacting, all those good things with us, because this show is certainly a product of our audience as well. You know, I feel like we get a lot of good interactions afterwards and positive, feedback, and we want to keep it going. We want to keep it growing too. So we need those things.
Yeah, man. And pick it up. We're also on live365.com. So you pick it up a nice little audience over there as well. Getting into several conversations about the content of the show is different. It's not as light as somebody said to me. They like it, but it's not as light as somebody said. She started to pick up a little beef to it. So, and I was like, is that a good thing? They said, yeah, because a lot of people are just not talking about, what we do, and I think we do it in a soft way.
I think that's ultimately kind of the goal, is to hopefully talk about some of those things in a softer way.
So before we start, somebody said, I was impressed. I said, about what? They said, you won the whole show without a Stephen A. reference.
Yeah, that's probably what people, if you are actively watching the show, I guarantee people are probably watching now at this point, like, how long can he go? That doesn't count. We'll say that doesn't count.
Yeah, and I said, so I said that much. He said, yeah.
Listen, I try to you think it's probably because we're your sons and they picking on me. No, just tell me what we see. I
just thought it was funny that they picked up right away. They was like, yo, man. I was like, nah, man. They thought it was funny though. They thought it was funny. So they said, hey, well, what's going to happen if y'all in the same room at the same time? We don't ever watch this show.
Yeah, that's probably the whole build up now. People that might get us somewhere. Keep talking about it.
But it's funny because what they said was, if you're in the same room, somebody gonna tell them.
I've seen this guy before, talks crazy about you all the time.
There he is right there. So that was really funny. But anyways, tonight we're gonna get into this, man. I've been involved in several conversations around this whole whether African American athletes should go to these schools in these states where they are, and somebody actually came up with a good plan. They said they shouldn't go to those schools; they should go to the HBCUs, in that state instead of going to those direct schools. And I thought that was a pretty solid plan, But I think more importantly, and this lady summed it up right, is not what happens on the campus. What happens when they leave the campus? When they go out into the community. Would it be treated different? Because the folks starting to feel a little empowered now. So my question is we're gonna talk about all of this. Like, what's next? We know they talking about cutting out the 14th Amendment. We know they're talking about taking Black history out of schools. They don't want to teach it. They're gerrymandering the zones now to restrict for voting. How do we respond is the question. How do we respond? And some people say we got to boycott.
I mean, I think it's so many things that need to happen. Like, that's a loaded question to me, because I feel like there are things that we could potentially do, but I think what's frightening is the lack of education of people. Like I think we can sit here and come up with all these plans and ideas. I think we're at this right now, the lack of people's ability to think critically, and I common sense in some instances is out the window. Like morals, it's questionable. It's just like so many things that I feel like we need to build from the ground up in order to really even be impactful. Like that's why it's so hard for us to come together when it's time to boycott or when it's time to do anything. Honestly, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
protesting for a day because it's like people just so lost in all these other things and
Well,
like
I mean, sorry about that.
that's where morals come in for me because it's like being able to make a decision, make a sacrifice for something that is ultimately greater. May not feel good for you. You may have to have some temporary discomfort. You ultimately, it's for something greater. People don't like discomfort.
So elaborate on what you mean educate. Are we talking about academically? We talking about
All of it.
okay, all of it.
Academically, like just like even from the standpoint of like just being more socially aware of
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. And ultimately, I would think on both sides because I think that's part of the problem. Everybody's just so into their little hub and bubble that they don't even necessarily know how to communicate or come to a common ground with the other side because no such thing in their opinions or minds. But education from just a sheer point, man, kids can barely read. If you
Yeah.
read, how can you
Wow.
think? If you can't think, how can you like sit here and make decisions for yourself? Ultimately, you're just gonna be spoon fed something enough and long enough where your decisions are guided for you. And what's even scary about that, just because I'm into tech, is the idea of like that's why AI is so dangerous. Like, and people are seeing it and using it now in certain instances, like where they're using it to think for them. They don't even realize or
Yeah.
understand. They're using it to literally think on their behalf. They're just a vessel to complete what the AI is telling them to do.
But the ironic thing around it is they're not teaching our kids AI. They have in the other schools. In our schools, they're not getting it. So they're going to be, and this goes to what we were talking about, is they're going to be further behind because they won't be able to compete because they won't know, you know, AI.
Education. This idea of education, man. It's key. It's central to I think everything ultimately, and that has been on a tremendous decline here in the United States for everybody. Of course, it is a detriment to our community even more, but it's just something that it's been something that has been, I think, kind of a tremendous factor that's not talked about when all of this is said and done. Kind of gets overlooked.
Yeah, Devin, we're talking about how do we respond? Everything that's going on.
Educate.
And kind of real
You
scary
going,
thing.
go ahead.
I don't know. First, Kai Cenat,
You going in
the
and out. So I
judge.
don't know if you're far away from the mic. You going in and out. Yeah.
Hold on, can you hear me?
Yep.
Uh,
All right, so I was saying, Chris, like Kai Cenat of the world, some of these streamers who are African American, even they mentioned like they had Cenat started reading again just because they were sick, 'cause he wasn't understanding. There's a kid named Ricardo. He's not he's not all the way there. Let's say that, but they're propping these kids up to be, the face of us, or put them at the Rolling Louds and different things like that. Those are the faces you see.
Well, I just want to say, for the record, that I'm in the AI. I'm starting to master this thing a little bit. I'm actually getting pretty good at it, man. I'm enjoying
you
it.
know, I know you love to use some AI. Love generating images
I
and
spent my hard-earned money to take a class to learn about it, man, so I can become proficient in it, man. So matter of fact, I'm signed up for another class.
you need to stop. You need to see this class.
Nah, but see, you know what I learned? Seriously, that's going to be the way to communicate effectively with people. And we don't know that. We're missing that. Marketing people are starting to use it. Everybody's starting to use it, man. We just don't, for some reason, as a people, we just behind the eight ball. We're not trying to figure it out. We're not trying to get our kids engaged. And so to me, that hampers any response you said that we can come up with. Like, how do we respond? How do you respond if you can't compete? Because that's going to be an issue.
It's I feel like my heart and mind just really been harping on education so much recently, just because like just kind of paying attention to that and seeing what's been happening with our kids, and just like just from us knowing and having an understanding like that back in the day, slaves would be killed for learning how to read. You know, unalived. We'll say that. So this doesn't.
Yeah.
but
It's
but
funny.
the idea that and then now we got people out here turning their nose up to that, and don't even understand the idea of like once you kind of had that foundation of being able to read and comprehend and like just be able to process information ultimately impacts how you deal with things emotionally, which we see a lot of our kids or people at times where it's like you can't necessarily express yourself verbally, so you take it out in a physical way or manner. It's just like
Well,
I
if
really
you,
I
if
keep
you
thinking of education and how that has been kind of at the root cause of everything. The lack of education, the impact of technology, just those things kind of coming together, creating this tornado of the I can't even say what I want to say, but chaos. It's nuts. I really just am like at a loss, because it's like even when I mean, you probably see it in the schools. Like some people you can get through and talk to, but it's just like some people it's just like such a challenge, And
well,
it ain't necessarily because of it's not the schools all the time. It's the environment or the home that they're in.
I
And
just sent you this ironic, this AI video, and it talks about that. This guy from our town, is he out there doing this thing, selling drugs, they money in his pocket, think he living a life, and he gets pulled into this poor hole that takes him back to slavery. And they were like, "Yo, where you from?" Basically, and he was talking about freedom. He was talking about freedom, and then the guy said, "Well, you're not free because look at all the people you put in bondage. What you doing?" And he begins to talk about what real freedom is to them. And I think, to your point, that's what's missing in the message. I think we have a population who think life has just always been good. They don't understand the struggles. And you and I were talking about before we got on here. I was talking to my friends, and I'll be 65 this year. We're that rare generation, Devin. What we were talking about was that we were born at the end of stuff. Well, we could recognize it. So we saw the videos of Ruby Diaz and Dave. So we saw, the dogs being sicked on people in the fire hoses. We saw the improvement. We never thought in a million years we would see us regress. We you know what I mean? Now we're watching it go backwards.
yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
the baffling or disheartening part to me is just even just thinking about the core of what the United States is supposed to be about. Like this idea of a melting pot of different cultures, even though it wasn't necessarily probably historically founded on that, but ultimately the vision like transcended or formed that. And it was still probably seeds of these things that were unaddressed or really kind of directly talked about, which I feel like probably is why we are where we are now. But it's just like again, waking up and just kind of seeing where we are right now, and like just seeing how we constantly moving backwards. It just
Yeah. You got to know your history. And you said it because the United States were founded on misfits and criminals. It was people that they gave an option. We go send you to jail. We're gonna send you to America. People came in for religious freedoms because they didn't want to be subjected to the king's way and different things. So in essence, you're right. It was a melting pot. The problem with it was when you started adding some coffee to the milk. When people started the different kind of milk getting in there, that it created a problem, and they carried it forward. And I think we've, even as a people. So my question to you is, why are we so forgiving? Because I think that's key to how we respond. Because black folk who look like us, we are the most forgiving race. We let go and be in bygones. Like look at the black people voted for Trump. They act like history never happened.
I don't know. Forgiving.
We're forgiving on certain, forgiving on other things.
Yeah, within our race, we're not that forgiving. We don't forgive each
Yeah.
other. What I'm saying,
I think forgiving or forgetful. I don't know. I don't even know if that fits. Forgiving. I just feel like probably just comfortable. Everybody comfortable.
Yes.
Everybody's
Want to invite everyone to the cookout, the metaphorical cookout.
but I think for your generation, you guys are less forgiving less forgiving in your generation. You are. You guys put that flag in the ground and you stick to it. But for my generation like right before me, they're forgiving. It's like, okay, it happened. Let's move on.
But Devin,
You hear that a lot.
I think a little bit of what you saying that that's actually kind of funny. Like that idea, just like I don't know. It is more like we just want to invite everybody to the cookout now, and it's just like some people don't even like. Yeah, there are some I would say allies out there. We can say that, but it ain't like just you can forget about what happened. Like even your allies to justify and understand and know. Like it's just like I don't know. It's forgiving. I can't. We are quick to like just open arms, bring people in. I'll say that. It is definitely more so our mentality. We are way more open arms, inviting than probably anybody else, any other culture. It's actually like the more and more I'm like thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. I wouldn't say forgiving, inviting. We will talk to and make anybody feel like home and comfortable, like it's nothing, whether you like them or not. And maybe part of that is just thinking about it from a historical standpoint, like just I don't know.
But if you think about it, like they did the bus boycott, they hit them in the pocket. People walked, people carpool, they did what they do. America didn't wake up consciously. Even I was talking to somebody about the Negro League. We were having the same conversation. One of the reasons why they included um, baseball wanted to add the Negro League was because they were selling out, especially night games. But what people didn't realize was they had to come at night because they all worked day jobs. So they couldn't play on at night, but the revenue was crazy. That was one of the things that really attracted them because they try to figure out how can we get more people into this game, and African American or Negroes you call it at the time were going to watch baseball. That was a lot of them didn't have TVs, and maybe they went into the juke joint, so they would go watch baseball. They did. They loved it. So I think we seem to think, or certain generations seem to think, that America woke up one day and had a conscience. This is like, let's just kind of, hey, let's just, hey, we feel bad at what we did. So I think the boycott, we spend over $2 trillion a year in this country, man. It's crazy. $2 trillion is what we spend as a people, man. So could you imagine if we just said we're not going to buy Nikes for a month, we're not going to Chick-fil-A for a month, we're not going to Target for a month, we're not going to Walmart for a month. Do you imagine the impact that would have? Just 1 month.
No, but the crazy part is like, I think we need to be disciplined and better enough to be like more than a month.
Yeah.
You know what? We done. Like going somewhere else.
Or we can't go more than none because soon the Jordans come out, we got to get it. We
got to figure out something. What's the alternative to Jordans? What's the alternative? The black-owned alternative to go to? Like, we're not doing this, but look at this product.
Black people trendsetters, man. Whatever we
the problem with that is
behind or do, people gonna follow suit. So that's what's the crazy part about it.
But you are this generation though. They caught up in, they gotta have name brand stuff. See, your generation will come out with different things. And if you ever pay attention, your generation has probably been one of the more creative generations and productive when it comes to clothing lines and things of that nature. You know, now it got to have a name brand for somebody to buy it. You know, they're not going to sit here and say, well, you know, let's get together. Let's hold. No, they don't. These young kids don't do that anymore, man. It's like, you know, they into name brand. They into stuff that already exists. You know, and they are so attached to the image that they're not going to, you know, I'm not going to try. I hear you talking about what we can do economically, but they not, you know, it's like somebody said this yesterday. They were in the barbershop and 6 people said they weren't voting. So he said, so they were like, my vote don't count. So the guy said, look at it this way. Imagine 1 million barbershops and 6 people in each barbershop said they didn't vote. It makes a difference. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to manufacturing and goods. To your point, getting everybody on board and being consistent and saying, yo, there is an alternative. You know, because you know, if 10 dudes walk down the street with a pair of Yankees, I'm just saying that, and they look good, people buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if
Ultimately,
you only got one, man, what's that you got on your feet? It's just different.
yeah. I mean, again, I feel like we're in a very, very trying some time, like between like the
Yeah.
education and then all these changes that are happening, and uh, just this feeling of almost, I don't know if anybody else feels like this, hopelessness, because it's this idea of just business
Dude.
as usual from everybody, like from the job that you work for, from like just everybody walking down up in the streets every day, like just
Like zombies.
bombs aren't being dropped and like our rights aren't being restricted and taken, and like surveillance isn't, being intensified and brought up more. It's like all of these life changing things that are happening that we're in a blink of an eye, like the world is gonna be unrecognizable. And it's just, we see the news not really reporting news. Like they just kind of fuel to the fire and keep everybody just kind of within this 24-hour news cycle. Nobody is investigating or digging into anything anymore. The news is ESPN.
Yeah. But I
It's
think, well, why do you think it is that people are oblivious or don't care about what's going on?
the top two catastrophic of the day, week, or hour. Why do I think it's like that? The powers that be. Because, I also, because money, this capitalistic society that we in, like we've reached peak where it's nothing left. Now they want to own us down to the very last drop of everything that we had.
Yeah, take our
Yeah.
weekends away, or
Hmm?
they gonna try to take. That's it. They gonna try to take them weekends away or something.
Don't say that. You just put that out there in the air. But
Yeah, but we've allowed it because we don't. I give you the perfect example. I had people complain about they took prayer out of school, and I had people get upset about it. And then I come back. Well, how many of you got upset other than the barbershop, other than your church? You know, how many of you got out there and got on your local politician? You know, how many of you got out there and got a petition and stood behind it? We complain about a lot of stuff, but when the action comes to make stuff happen, we lose traction because Islam doesn't have a problem getting in schools now. You know, I mean, it's just and they earned it. I'm not making fun. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they hit a whole. When Ramadan comes, those kids get to dress in their garb, leave the classroom, and go pray. You know, because they fought for it. So there's a time, man. I think where we don't fight hard enough. You know, there's a time, man, when we complain about it. Like I say this all the time. You go to any barbershop in the black neighborhood, they can solve the problems of the world. You go in there, man, they got it going. But outside the barbershop, nothing happens.
yeah. Just even the idea of the United States, this thing, I can't get past that now. Like how it used to be, like this idea of like one country and at least this American dream that existed that we all looked at, regardless of how hard it was for us, being who we are as African Americans. It was the idea that this American, and that it
No,
was that
I
scary for anybody and everybody, regardless of what your skin tone, color, race, ethnicity. And I think that's the part that is the most frightening. That we all are in this space right now where you would hope that you feel it, and that you would kind of get a sense of like, yo, maybe we should wake up and do something. But no, we still lost and talking about, you know, these files or this happening here and this versus like where all of our rights are being infringed upon, everybody's rights. And
But that's the scary thing. It's like we're all having the same dream, and only a few people waking up. Some people they just
you
yo
feel Matrix, like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, I'm out of the I'm outside of the tube where like the little thing that they had us in sleep. I'm just like looking at this. Oh my goodness.
Well, let's go back and you said something I think is pivotal. We talked about we talked about boycott. We get back to that, but you talk about education. We've been nonchalant in education. We're not. This professor came out. I saw it about a month ago. I watched this video, and she got a lot of backlash because she came out and said the class of 1950 is going to be was smarter than the class of 2026 is going to be, and everybody was in the uproar and everything. And they asked her why. She said because the class of 1950, their parents couldn't read, couldn't write, made sure their kids got educated, made sure their kids had a work ethic. Make sure their kids understand what sense of community was. That's not happening today. Now, even though they have more information and they can learn more, they're not. Some of them are almost illiterate. So it's like we don't even value education anymore. I have people right fill out a job application, and the how on the job application, you get a template and it says put your name here. They don't even take that off the application, man. It says put their name there. They just put their name right beside it. You get down to the middle, it says put bullet points there. That's still there. And they put stuff. Chris, I'm telling you, these are grown people who the little stuff that we've taken for granted, we no longer have those skills.
Yeah. And while you were speaking and just kind of speaking of the place and where we are,
Yeah.
it reminded me of it's like this. It's a historical cyclical theory of what happens in life that throughout probably any empire or society, but it's the idea of like hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And I think we are in the cycle of where good times have created so many weak men. And at all types of different levels or aspects of life, politicians on down. And then to the point where it's like, yo, now we are in the midst of these hard times. And unfortunately, we got to go through it in order for some of us to wake up and we find probably who some of these strong men of people and character are, so we can hopefully get on the other side of this. Like, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes if you try to take a step back and look at all these things that are happening,
Yeah.
whew, it's a lot.
Well, it was funny because Frederick Douglass has probably killed him this quote. It goes something like, "It's easier to repair wounded boys than broken men." And so I do agree that's right. So what? How do we respond though? We talked about boycotting. Our dollars make a lot of sense. Do we start putting pressure on politicians to help improve our school? Like now, you're talking about closing 17 schools, and everybody's in the uproar about the 17 schools. I haven't really paid attention to the list, but I'm willing to bet some of those schools probably need to be closed because of the age of the building. Like schools, 57 schools didn't have school day because they didn't have they couldn't be cool in school, no air conditioning. Some of the schools you walk around, you got to like hold your phone by the window because they built like bunkers. You can't get a signal. Some of the Chromebooks they have are terrible. So I get it. We want to make it convenient for our kids to be able to go to a building, but what about having the best possible building we can send them to?
Yeah.
There was a time, man, where when we had our own, that African American, because we were teaching on, we had the best and the brightest. And I'm not against Brown versus Board of Education, but even Martin Luther King came back and said in later days he wasn't sure if that was the best thing for us to do
I
because
mean, we
we've been
just,
separate, but we've never been equal.
yeah, I was about to say, we just assimilated into a place of people that still hate us but want to take our
Yeah,
job.
and
Want to
giving
put
you,
to that column.
giving you the older books. So what's our role? Like for instance, I'm on guys of my generation, man. We got to start giving back. We got to go to school. We got to read to some of these kids in the schools, man. We just got to show up, give them high fives, and nothing crazy, but we got to start having the presence. You know, um, 'Cause, I read my children's book, and I've read at a couple schools already, and these kids, man, they're eating it up. And teachers are telling because they're not used to having African American men come in there, and just be present. And I think for my generation, we need to do more of that. We need to stop thinking we got to have all these great programs and doing all this crazy stuff and just be present. Because another thing I realized, a lot of these kids, their grandparents are like 45 years old. So they don't have a lot of wisdom. So I think generations need to challenge themselves, man. I think for our generation, that needs to happen. You know, and I'm not saying go up there and tackle kids, but go to an elementary school, read in the class. We go to this one school every year. Twice a year we go for the high fives beginning of the school year. As a matter of fact, we'd be at the school next Friday giving out water, ice, and pretzels. Not this Friday, but the following Friday. And we just have a presence. And it's funny because every time we go, they talk about how the culture changes because now these boys ain't running around acting crazy and they're a little more subdued because they see all these black men.
No, that's true. Actually, I mean, while you were speaking, I was thinking kind of along the lines of that. We need more just the idea of having a presence in different areas and aspects of like not even just for the kids, but like for families and communities. Like that idea or sense of community is shot. Like that's gone. But I feel like it meant a lot. Like because you know who your neighbor is. You know who that kid is down the street.
Yeah.
What's going on with everybody. It's a little less hostile and you care for that person a little bit more because you know that individual, you know their family. I feel like we don't necessarily have too much, if any, of that. And then just kind of being a present and offering things like that because there's certainly communities and people that are in need. And I think it's unfortunately we in a society where it's people that kind of take advantage and try to capitalize on that, and nothing really comes off as genuine. And that's providing like just kind of just being something and doing something just cause. And that's how you can ultimately, I feel like, reach and get to people in a different way too. Because like nobody wants to feel like they're being sold something they're told or that you're here because they can't necessarily do something. But I feel like if they can come to it themselves and you just be in the presence, it makes me think about the Black Panthers. Like, they were just a org about
Yeah.
community and being a presence. All the other things, of course, they try to put into the news and, glamorize was just a part of it. But like the main thing that really was a driving force and like changing factor in the community was just the community presence and being able to provide a service or a need. And then just providing that uplifted people to educate themselves and have a sense of pride. Kind of again similar to what you were saying, Dad, being at the schools and just being a presence and welcoming those kids in and having somebody who cares that looks like them. It's like a something that they can also potentially aspire to be or even find out more about. Like, yo, why is that man carry himself like that? Like,
But I think that's where your generation comes in. I think your generation needs to be involved in more career days.
mm-hmm.
And more, and just go to school and have conversations about life because they can relate to you guys. I mean, I think my generation can do a little bit, but for you guys, they can relate it because you know the language. Right now, it's going to change, but right now they're aspiring to be what you guys are. You guys have set the foundation for what they think is cool and acceptable, and and I'm not saying
they're using skibbity pep and.
But people, go ahead, Devin. I'm sorry. Yeah.
With Chris, I don't understand what a lot of these kids be talking about sometimes. You just as lost as.
Yeah, but you don't have to speak in their language. You set the tempo by speaking in your language. They'll tell you stuff, but they'll look at you and say, man, like if Chris goes in and talks about what he does for a living, they will get that. Most of the guys I know retired. So it's not exactly career day. When you go in there, they can talk about the decisions they made, but that's why I say for us, reading with them, sharing things is cool. Now I can go in and talk about what I do, but most of the guys I know retired or so it's different. You guys are actually in the workforce. You guys are actually doing stuff. There's certain music that like when I play the song, the theme song, the kids love it. But honestly, I was a little worried about it. I'm like, man, this is all gonna work or not, man? Because I'm a different place. It was funny because Monday night I did something for the men, community men, and religious guys, and I did "Don't Believe the Hype," about Public Enemy, and there were people in the car. Some younger guys was like, "Who? What?" So
Wait,
yeah, but I know people who don't realize that Will Smith was a rapper. They I'm telling you. So it's yeah.
actually, it's funny, but also at the same time scary. And then to put that into context or perspective of like uh of them getting rid of history and like slowly erasing things, like just as simple as this next generation coming up under can be like Will Smith was never a rapper, like
But it
it's
also speaks to our ability to try to connect with them.
not true. That never happened.
But for us, is normal. For them, and that's what I mean. You're probably closer to connect to them to talk about certain, artists and certain things of that nature. Even your perspective of certain current events is probably closer to their realm than our realm. Like a lot of guys, older guys I know, man, they want to spank, man. They want to physically, they don't do that anymore. It's like, they not deep conversation is, So. What'd you say, Devin?
Maybe a little
Someone say that might be the problem.
Well, I'm just saying though. So I think each generation has a role they can play now. You know, um, a lot of my friends are grandparents. They could talk about how they're involved in their families, man. Or they have grown kids. They could talk about that. And kids are like that. But your generation is kind of closer. And I think that starts in reaching back is huge. You know, you can't be what you can't see. So you need to see young people, or people, closer to you making it, so but doing different things, being successful, whatever they do. It's like people like this podcast because they don't see enough. Fine, to us is normal. But I think how you change was normal, or was abnormal now to get it back to the place where we just start, establish some sense of normalcy is you got to show them. You got to lead by example. I think that's one of the things we got to do a better job of.
Yeah, I mean that's a tricky one there. Lead by example. Not
Why is it tricky? You always say that. Why is it tricky?
because some people need some examples. They need better examples.
I agree. I definitely agree. But that's where men mentoring men come in. That's where men discipling men come into play. I think that's that has to happen.
I don't know what just happened. I don't know if I lost y'all there. Looks like I
You
lost y'all.
froze. I said that's where men come into men mentoring men, men discipling men. That's where they come into play. You know,
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, definitely, yes. I do understand. I agree with that. We definitely need, but it's. I don't mean to sound and seem so weak,
yeah, you do. But go ahead.
but I do almost like kind of get the feeling or sense like that. Of course, things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. Like it's going to take some people to really feel it and see it to be like, yo, like what is this? Like nobody can read or comprehend these things. Everybody just is feeling miserable. Nobody can like afford to live. We close to getting there, but it's just like I feel like it just needs to probably get, unfortunately, for a lot of people to get on one accord. Like we all have to feel terrible.
I don't know how much more they got to feel because
Like the king, like let them eat cake type stuff. Like yo, we gonna have to be outside the lawn of the White House.
yeah, I used to be able to fill both my cars up with $60. Now it costs me 57 to fill up the Jeep. Um, I used to pay $250 to $5 for my prescription. I went the other day $35. Man, me and that lady almost got into it, and I'm thinking to myself like, if you have limited income, it's costing you $5 a gallon to put gas in your car. Prescriptions are going up. You probably have to pay a higher copay now when you go because my copay went from nothing to went up to to a nominal fee. I don't know how people are going to do it. I don't know how certain people are going to do it.
It's infuriating even to hear you go through all those things, and then also on the other hand, they want to give out billions of dollars to January Sixers and anybody he feels was kind of done unfairly by who knows. I don't even know who he's talking about. They done unfairly by. Like it's
They
just
broke the law.
we all are feeling ripped off and like not getting our fair share of due, especially us as black people. But not even gonna go there. Let's say as United States citizens, like everybody is feeling the brunt of this, and for you to sit here and take $1 billion and give it to a very small select group of people is absurd, and everybody should be living at
Yeah.
level or at because think about that money could have easily, I'm sure in a lot of people's neighborhoods, you probably potholes, you probably
education,
traffic lights, education, buildings falling apart, bridges falling apart, like all these things that are going on and are wrong, and literally this country's falling apart at the seams all over it's wild because even in the suburbs where I thought the streets would have been paved a little bit better, it's like, whoa, they got
But,
too.
it's white. Go ahead, Devin.
say no.
It's white privilege because if Obama would have done that, we never heard of here. We never heard the end of that. If he would have get it to Black Lives Matter, we never heard the end of that. Not that he should have. So I mean, that's been like that. It's getting worse now because his latest thing is him, his family, and his friends. He's trying to get a bill passed that they never can be audited for their taxes.
What kind of craziness is
I'm
that?
telling you. I'm just telling you.
Status here where he's going to change. I'm waiting for him to change the name. Like we're gonna wake up one day. He's like, it's no longer called president. And if I hear you say that, ICE is coming to get you.
But think about it. I mean, it's the same dude who put his name on the Bible. He has a gold statue outside his golf club. This dude is, and there's people who, white and black, who bow down to him like he's a dictator. He's a great king.
This also infuriates me for anybody who can even claim like anything of being of Christianity and of the Bible or Catholic or anything that is of that nature and believe in and follow this man when he is literally creating idols of himself and putting them up places. And then for people to have the nerve to be praying over it and like just saying that, oh no, it's okay, this is a man. And nowhere, anywhere throughout any time of history or in the Bible I feel like was that something that was just okay to do. We generally do that for people who have passed away and accomplished something great. We don't make statues of somebody who's living and right there, unless we're talking about like AI
or sports, but hate.
But they've done something great. This man ain't do nothing. He's decided for himself that he gets these things. It's not even something that we decided as. He's putting his name on things. Like it's just.
Well, Chris, what it is hate. I was having a discussion with somebody earlier, and I don't think they got what I was saying. Hate makes people do strange things. It does. And hate make people lose common sense, because they hate people who don't look like them so much that anything they think is going to hurt them, not realizing it's going to hurt them too, they for. So they think, they don't understand that they got to pay $5 again for gas. They don't see that. They don't understand their prescription's going to go up too. And then when it happens, it's just like this guy, they were interviewing this guy, and he was saying how he hated Obamacare. He was never for it. So it was the worst thing in the world. And then what happened was, he got sick, and he was on this health plan, and they were calling it universal health.
Too many stories like that.
And then he never realized it was the same thing. Now he's talking about he don't understand what the fuss was because now, instead of paying like $600 for medicine, he's paying like $30. He can go to doctors for existing things that he couldn't go before. He could like get insurance. He has existing ailments. So, Chris, when you hate somebody so much, man, you're blinded by it. And one thing that people, when they really do, is make sure they focus they hate on us. And I think and this goes back to what I said before, because we always seem to forgive.
Yeah.
Is Angela in the room?
She there. I just asked her to heat up some food more for me. You know.
Hey, I'm coming over for dinner. But anyway,
But no, it's I think again, I don't think we're as forgiving. I don't want to say forgiving. I just again think I don't know, just kind of very quick to be inviting. Invite.
and so let me ask you, let me rephrase it then. Why is it that no matter what they do,
Dance, come to the cookout. Huh?
why is it that no matter what they do, we always expect them to be different? My
Yeah.
dad used to say to me all the time, once somebody introduces themselves to you, stop trying to reintroduce yourself into who you want them to be. We seem to do that all the time. For some reason, we think we're going to wake up tomorrow and everything's going to be fine. They're going to treat us like equals. We're going to have all this great stuff. They're going to fund our schools. And that just never happens.
Yeah, that's actually a very great point there. And that's why something I think extreme needs to happen in terms of like we need to think outside the box and have a disciplined way of like trying to bring people together and be on one accord. Like it's just, and I do think it's a long term play. It ain't something quick and happen overnight because I don't think we even at that point in time to have enough people to be in the fight.
Yeah.
We ain't got enough people to be in the fight. Like we
So I
need
think,
to get it like that. Like yeah, we need to find our generals. We need to find like sergeants. Everybody. We need to find everybody that we need to build up this army.
but see, the thing is, and I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it. I think part of it is we're always waiting for somebody to lead us, which is where everybody kind of just hangs out because everybody waiting for the next leader to come. So folk don't want to do what they need to do. I think the second thing is, you know, I don't know where the next Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali is going to come from. People who are stature in those positions that's willing to sacrifice, or even thinking about remotely sacrificing what they have or accomplish, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the greater cause. I don't know if that person is coming.
And I wish we had somebody that even if they not at the forefront, a face, be able to get together. Think like, how can we make it like that's like how can we make a grand impact on a myriad of levels? Like all types of levels, whether economically, educationally, to as well as social. So
I think for me, if I was organized, that you start with social media because that's the place where people have the most confidence, and you come up with a message, and you just have almost like a challenge. I had to TikTok all these challenges, and you start there. You start spreading it. You start getting the message out. You consistent with the message, and then maybe in a month or 2 months, you hold something on social media. How many people you can get to sign on, kind of thing. I think that's where you got to start because that's what people look at social media.
yeah, I mean, I agree to an extent, but it's like also just bringing different voices to the table. It's people who are experts and professionals in so many different fields, and I think like sometimes like
So Kevin put in the chat box the class of 50 also answered the call to action. Today we are complacent. What you said, Chris. We all see it, but no one does anything. I think, but see, to me, that's an issue because I don't know. I look at Mackenzie. I have a 7-year-old grandson that's on track to have fewer rights than I had. That's crazy. That's crazy. How can you not be upset about that? How can you not be troubled about that? How can you not feel like, wow, man, like, we're going backwards?
they don't know. It's people that don't know that they're going
You
back.
think they don't know? Oh, all right. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious.
Because for some people, they got in the car late. Like they went for the ride,
And they should have left them. They should be allowed in the
or
car.
they just was born late. You know what I mean? And some people don't look back.
Yeah, but I see, and I agree with you. But people should wake up and see that's why they want to take it out of schools. They don't want us to know our history. They want us to know the history of slavery. They want to know the history of the guy that goes to prison, gets out, comes back to the neighborhood and does well. They don't want to know the history of the guy that hasn't been to prison, the guy that continuously strives to be a good dad, a good husband, to be a pillar in his community. They don't want to know that.
I just think that's on us now.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. So at what point do you realize, like, yo, hey, I got to do something? You'll get the same thing. You can't expect something different if you continue to do the same thing. You can't. It don't work like that.
I definitely feel like that. Like, it's just some drastic things need to happen in order for us to have some impactful things happen. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, man. It just and I'm never gonna lose hope as we get ready to close. I'm never gonna lose hope. I just feel like, and Kevin said it, you said it, we're complacent. And complacency just sets you further back. It does. It just sets you further back, man. It doesn't, it doesn't help you do anything. So it's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting, man. But another great episode of Above Average Black Men. We lost Devin in here somewhere.
Yeah, I haven't lost hope. I just know it's going to get hard. So take care, everybody. I know this is probably a little bit more of a gloomier episode.
Above average black men shining like the sun with Chris Senior, Chris Junior.
Devin said his phone died. Anyway. All right, man. Peace, man. Love you, dude. See you later.